Okay, now we're up to Chapter 12, Advertising and Public Relations. We start out here talking about the promotional mix in general, and then we'll talk about two of the elements in this chapter. So this is probably what you thought the whole course was going to be, and here it is, Chapter 12, and we're just now getting to it. But the 5 different elements of the promotional mix, so these would different ways so promotion is just one element of marketing, and here's the 5 different ones. Number 1 is advertising, which we're going to talk about in this chapter. The second one is sales promotion, which I'm sure you're also very familiar with. The third is public relations, which we'll discuss some in this chapter, but that one always gets neglected. 4 is personal selling, and number 5 is direct marketing, which also includes online. So we're going to talk about advertising and public relations in this chapter. Then in the next chapter we'll talk about sales promotion and personal selling, and then direct marketing gets a chapter all to itself. So that's kind of what we're covering here for the next 3 chapters. Advertising has the advantage of being it can have a lot of different advantages. So we'll talk about kind of all those. We'll talk about that in a lot of detail. It can be expensive, and it's not personal. It's generally a one-way communication, and sometimes that's fine depending on what you're trying to do. So it can be very, very effective. It does have its limitations, though. Sales promotions are short-term incentives. So these would be coupons or something. For advertising, you can have a variety of different motives or objectives that you're trying to achieve. Sales promotion is buy it now. You're trying to get so this could be putting it on sale, this could be a coupon, something that's going to provide a strong incentive for the customer to buy it right now. Public relations, this would be publicity, things that you're doing for your corporate image, for example, things that you're just doing to build good relationships. So public relations is not expensive, but it is very important, and you can go on the defensive there to prevent bad publicity, but this is just creating goodwill through all your publics. Personal selling is just what it sounds like, personal selling. It can be the most effective at building or building up buyers' preferences, or I should say even actions. So think about it this way. We talked about sales promotion being buy it now. So you can put it on sale, or you can put the coupon out there. But personal selling, you've got a person there actually pushing to close that sale. So that's why it can be very, very effective at bringing the buyer to action. You've got somebody there to convince them and overcome objections and all that kind of thing. So it can be very expensive, but it really can be the most effective at actually getting the consumer to take action. And then direct marketing, you can use this for building relationships. You can use this to get immediate online or immediate responses. A lot of this now is done online. We still have, this will be mail, this will be online. We'll talk about a couple different things in there, and it's got its pros and cons, but it can be very, very cost effective, and also can be very, very flexible is another really big advantage here. It can be very customized, very personal, and very immediate and flexible. So those would be some good advantages to that one. Okay, so I set up here that advertising can have different motives. So basically there are 3 different possible things that an advertising an advertisement is trying to do. It is either trying to inform, trying to persuade, or trying to remind. Those would be the three different objectives. You want to inform your consumers if you have a new product. You might have to show them how to use it. If you've got changes, new and improved, doesn't do any good to make improvements to a product unless people know about it, so you have to inform them of that. You might be correcting false impressions or something like that. Lots of different things, but if you need to explain something to them, that's to inform. To persuade, you are really trying to build up a brand preference. I'm trying to convince you, persuade you that you prefer this brand to another brand, or trying to switch brands. That would be persuading as well. Sometimes you are trying to just persuade them to purchase it now. That's another type of persuasive advertisement. And then reminding, a lot of this is just to maintain the relationships, or to remind people in the off season. For instance, you know how you see the Coca-Cola ads at Christmas, and they have the polar bears or whatever. They don't ever. It's not like they're trying to tell you about anything new, and it's not like they're even doing anything in there to encourage you to buy it now. They're just kind of keeping the product in the minds of the consumers and trying to maintain that relationship and just remind you that it's there. So that's those are the three categories, and depending on what you're trying to accomplish, you have to decide this first. You first have to decide, what is it I'm trying to do? Do I need to inform, persuade, or remind? And then that's going to determine a lot of the decisions that you make going down the road. Before we even start coming up with the advertising, we have to come up with the budget. And there's 4 different ways. I have 3 here. Let's say 4. Different ways to set the advertising budget. The first one is the affordable method. And this is just you figure out your revenue minus your expenses and see what's left, okay? And then that's what you will then take a percentage of that to your advertising. This is probably the most common method. It's probably not the best method, because you're just going to say, okay, well, I'm going to pay all my other bills, and then I'm going to see what's left, and I'll devote some to advertising. But that's what, especially with small businesses, that's what a lot of them do. You also have the percent of sales method, and this one's really backwards. What you're saying is, okay, I'm going to take 10% of my sales and dedicate that towards advertising. But sales shouldn't be driving advertising. Advertising should be driving sales. And so you would say I would increase my advertising budget with the hopes of increasing my sales. So this one's kind of backwards to me, but it's used a lot. You've also got the competitive parity, which just says basically I'm going to do what my competition's doing. So you analyze the competition, and then you base your budget on theirs. Base it on what they're doing. You do see this a lot. If Ford does this advertising campaign, then Chevy will follow right behind them and do something very similar. So you just don't want to lose market share. You don't want to lose ground there. And then the most complicated, but probably the best one, and also probably the least used one, is objective and task. And so this one you just say, here's what I need to accomplish, here are the steps I need to accomplish that, and here's how much money I need to do it. And we'll talk about in a couple of these, this is how many people I have to reach, here's the best way to reach them, here's how much it's going to cost me to do it. And so that's kind of the opposite of what most people do, but it really does seem like the most logical approach there. Okay, so I've decided whether I need to inform, persuade, or remind, and I've set a budget. Now I have to come up with my message that I want to do. And there are several different strategies here, execution strategies, and these are always this is always the fun part to do, because you can look at a lot of ads and pick them in here, which is an activity for you to do there. The first one, slice of life. And so this one I'm just going to show typical people using the product in a normal setting. You see this with a lot of, like, I don't know, household cleaning products or something like that. So nothing unusual. These are just real people and using the product in real settings. Another one is the lifestyle. So if I'm aimed at a certain lifestyle, like athletic lifestyle or green lifestyle, or anything that says extreme on it is targeting a certain lifestyle. Sometimes even if you're not part of that lifestyle, you wish you were, and so you kind of buy that product hoping to align yourself with that lifestyle. A third one would be fantasy, and there are a lot of different brands of this. One of my favorite examples of this, one of those Old Spice commercials where the guy keeps changing the scenery and the setting and all this, and I'm the guy your girl wishes you were, something like that. They're very funny. 4, mood or image. So this could be, I'm just trying to, like the Corona ads, instill a serene, relaxed, beachy thing, or anything that goes with like nostalgia would be mood or image, tries to invoke that kind of feeling there. Musical, these can be very effective with a jingle that sticks in your head, like those 1-800 or the freecreditreport.com. But think of how many jingles get stuck in your head. So that can be very, very effective. Let's see. 6, personality symbol. So this would be a fictional character that is associated with your product, like the Geico Gecko or the Aflac Duck or Mr. Clean or Tony the Tiger, anything like that. Those are used a lot. 7, technical expertise. So this shows experts, explaining the product, how they got there. So Sam Adams has this commercial, and they show these beer brewers and how technical they are, and the guy's shoving his nose in the hops or whatever, and where they go all over the world. That would be an example of technical expertise. You've also got scientific evidence. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend this. That would be scientific evidence. And then the last one would be testimonial evidence. So this could be if you have celebrity endorsements, or like Jared with Subway. That would be an example of testimonial evidence. So it's not a technical expert, but it's just somebody who's endorsing that product. So those would be the main different. It's not like one's better, but depending on what you're trying to accomplish, some are much more effective than others. And humor you can infuse through almost any of these, and that's often very effective as well. Okay, so then I've come up with my overall execution strategy and the message I want to do. Now I have to decide how I'm going to deliver that. So reach is the percent of the target market, sorry, that's been exposed to the message. Exposed to the message. So if there are 100 people in my potential market and 30 of them see my message, have been exposed to my message at some time, then that would be a 30% reach. Frequency is the number of times that the average person in that target market has seen the message. So reach is the percentage of your target market that sees your message. frequency of the number of times that they are exposed to that message. Average person is exposed to that message. Again, the person in your target market. And then the impact, what we really mean here with the impact is that I don't just reach them, but that I engage them. So they didn't just see it, they remembered it. It resonated with them. It hit them on some level or hit some emotional level. So that can, not just that they saw your ad, but they believed your ad or something like that would be an example of impact. All right, so now I'll set my goals. Here's the reach I want. Here's the frequency I want. Now I have to decide how I'm going to deliver my message. So we've got TV, where TV can be a low cost per exposure because the overall cost is high, but you're meeting so many you're hitting so many people, and it can also appeal to a lot of senses. And so you've got it's audio and visual, and so you can really do a lot with that. 2 would be internet. Oh, so a con of that of TV would be that the overall cost is really high, and it's also, you got a lot of clutter in there, and people can tune out commercials and that kind of stuff. Internet, you can be highly selective, it can be very flexible, it can be interactive, and it's also really low cost, so that's great. However, the audience is what controls the exposure, so it's harder sometimes to reach the certain people because they control whether they see it or not and what sites they go to. Newspaper has at least locally a good credibility, and newspapers are very, very believable. People tend to believe it when they see it in the newspaper. However, they have lower quality, so you're limited in what you can do as far as how fancy it can get and how pretty you can make it. So you've got some limitations in what you can achieve, but it does have high believability there, which is important. 4 is direct mail. Now you've got it can be very, very selective and customizable. You can send stuff to people with their name on it, which can be very, very effective. It is really high per person, though. The cost is very high per person, and you also have this kind of feeling of junk mail with it, which can kind of reduce your credibility sometimes. Magazine is another way to deliver the ad, and these you can reach a certain demographic very well once you've that's how magazines tend to go, with special interest and that sort of thing, and they're very credible and have really high quality. You can make some really nice things, but they are expensive, so that would be a downside of that one. Radio, again, locally very good, very high acceptance, low cost, which is also really good. But also low attention. People tend to tune that out, and you've got audio only, so you're kind of limited in what you can do with that with only audio. And then the last one we'll talk about here is outdoor media. The biggest advantage is the low cost and high repeat. If it's a billboard that people see every single day. However, you can't really select your audience very well. If you put a billboard on dual highway, lots of people are going to see it, but not all of those people are going to be part of your target market, so then you've kind of wasted that money on them. But it is low cost, so that really helps there. And the last thing I want to talk about in this chapter is public relations, which often gets neglected and can be very, very important. And it is being used more now, I think, than it was in the past. So some different tools for public relations. Getting yourself in the news, hopefully good news, that would be a tool. Speeches in the community would be one. You've got special events that you could host, grand openings, anniversary things, something like that. All kinds of written material can fall under public relations. So this could be the annual reports that you put out, this could be newsletters, this could be brochures that you leave around, anything like that. Another public relations tool would be audio-visual material. This could be DVDs, but a lot of this now is done online, and so any kind of online videos that you have would fall under this category on the company website or anything like that. Public service that the company does, or that the company's employee does, or the company sponsoring public things, and this is really just done to promote goodwill in the community. A newer one is buzz marketing, and this is done through social media. If you can create buzz and then let the consumers do it for you and spread the word for you, that would be a really good way to kind of let your customers do your advertising for you. And then the other one, and again, public relations was neglected for a long time, but now that we have the internet, corporate websites are a huge source of a really important public relations tool. And some of them now just inform about the product, but other ones are there to entertain, and they have games built into it, and so you can even if they're not selling anything on that website, they can accomplish a lot and create a lot of good public relations through their websites. So that's Chapter 12.